we do now. Water's running the whole time, and he's hitting his head. And I said, shut the water off. I just can't even get a Dixie cup, shut the water off, right now, shut it off. And so I shut it off, and he stopped. They've been doing this for 5 years with this individual, with the water on the whole time. I said, get a Dixie cup, dip, 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 brush, 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 done, done, done. I don't understand this again, and it's that visceral for me. I don't know if you, and I apologize if I've been in some rooms and gone, no, but because it's like that instant. And a lot of you have that same thing where you see it and you go, this isn't right, we've got to change something here, right? And you just know it. Backward chaining, don't forget about it. It's something that you can backward chain almost anything. Only thing I know, Martha Stewart, you can't do an angel food cake backwards. It doesn't work out so hot, unless you're just scraping it out of there. I mean, you can't, there's certain things you have to go in a forward chain. But what we typically try to do is show our kids everything we want them to do, and then they're lost on steps 3, 4, 5. All those middle steps are gone because it's too long. And so you teach them the end first. If you're backward chaining a math timing or a math sheet, you would have the math timing done, let them circle the ones that are wrong and count how many errors are in it. And then you might have only half of the math timing done and they have to fill in half, but now they're backward chaining it and they're doing a piece of the whole and really feeling successful about it. You can use bonus problems, you can use all kinds of stuff. Okay, shaping, number 2. Reinforcing baby steps, successive approximations to the desired goal of handwriting a C. Okay, ready for another consult? Severely emotionally challenged little individual who were up on the board, on the whiteboard, 4 staff transitions in 47 minutes. Okay, so 4 people switch with him, and we're writing a C. We're teaching a 7-year-old who's just come out of residential treatment to write a C. On the wall, C, you guys. Half around and stop, like nothing hard about a C, right? Really one of the best gross motor letters to write, because there's not, crosses and all that kind of stuff. Just half around and stop. 47 minutes, 4 staff transitions. The kid got snapped by one of the aides that worked with him for 12 minutes. He got snapped at, you ready for this? You guys are going to be horrified because I know you. He got snapped at 52 times in 12 minutes. Okay. One lady gets up and says, this is how we're doing it. He tries, and that's okay for her. Second lady gets up, says, this is how we're doing it, and he was just a little off, and nope, changing it, nope, changing it, and I'm like, gah. And my hardest moment in the world is sitting there watching all of this and going, keep your mouth shut, Shauna, keep your mouth shut. I got to see how this plays out for him. In the meantime, the reason I hate that is this little kid's suffering for something that's so easy to do. So then third person comes up and he does great for her, and he's all, like clear up high, it's not even on the lines, that's fine for her. Fourth person comes up and she's the snapper lady. Okay. So this kiddo, literally, I'm not kidding you guys, and I thought this was one of the smartest kids I've ever met in my life, does this C movement, and he, his C's are okay. The snapping lady sent him over the edge, and he said, I have got to take a break before I get mad, which again I was cheering about. And the C lady, he walked right up to her and he said, break time, like this in her face. And she's like, did you see what he just did? And it was a perfect opportunity. I promise I'll never do this with any of you because you guys would never do this. But I said to this lady, I said, would you like to know how many times you snapped at him in 12 minutes? 50. She's like, oh, she was horrified because she didn't realize she was so in this negative funk with him. She didn't realize that, man, this is what I did. So here's what the kid did. You ready for this? This is still, I think, one of the funniest consults I've ever. He goes into the bathroom. He rips the soap dispenser off the wall. He grabs the bladder in the soap dispenser. Probably needed a little sensory, right? So the little squeezy head pop out of your thing would be great for him right then. He goes like this on the wall, and what does he write in the wall? C's. Perfect C's. I'm like, okay. So all of the school thought he needs to be back in residential treatment. All 4 of the paras, and the reason they had 4 people with him at that time is they didn't want to overload them because he had such high behaviors. Okay, let me show you a couple handwriting things, and these are, I've learned them from the OT. One of the best ways to do handwriting, you know how our handwriting paper is like the big long lines, and then here's what you inevitably have from your kid. You ready? You get a C. This is my C. Well, look, mine's not even great. Okay, so then I want him to go, and he looks at my shoddy representation, then he looks at his. He's looking back at his, and now all of a sudden, you with me? He's clear down here. Okay, so one of the ways to change this is to simply, and it's so simple, you guys are going to go, oh my word. Maybe you know. Do you know what to do? So what I do inevitably now is we let them have one model. It's kind of backward chaining too. So this is supposed to be a model. I got a D in neatness in first grade. Don't ask me why they gave letter grades back then, but I'm still scarred about it today. So there's the C, and then you give him a space within to write and practice his attempt, okay? So now he's got his C. Okay, good job, yay, you did it. Now, you do your attempt again, and now you give him 2 to try his within. So you're fading how many models you give him, in essence trying to then get him to the point where he can come along and go along the whole handwriting sheet like we give out and make C's, till the cows come home. Sorry, no pun intended. So he can make C's all the way along there and literally do that the correct way. But by giving him, whiting this out and giving him a model each time before he attempts, he's probably going to be much more successful. And then you give him a model 1 time and he attempts 2. Then you give him a model 1 time and he attempts 3. And then you backward chain that back to this. Does that make sense? OT told me that. She said, when you're looking at your cruddy representation here, if his is here, he's looking at that next time. In this long line here, he's just looking at his poor one, so he's going to keep looking back only 1 space. He doesn't jump over his and look at the original. He's looking back at his. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So think about that with your kids. It's just an easy little one where you're shaping. So I'm using both of those. I'm saying I'm reinforcing successive approximations to you writing C's across that bottom line. And then I'm also backward chaining by giving you one good one and then 1 attempt. And then I'm going to try to expand that and fade that prompt by the 1 good one. That makes sense? Extinctions, ignoring. So I'm going to ignore the inappropriate behavior and I'm going to reinforce you when I see you do the right behavior. And some things we can't ignore, we know, that's fine. But for the things you can, do. Absolutely do. Reinforcement, you obviously know what this is, but think about that 3-to-1 ratio. You want to give someone that reinforcement 3 times to every 1 verbal redirect. Okay, so this is the other one, and I don't know if I can teach this to everyone here. I learned this in New York City. I learned it in all the places afterwards. I actually learned it in the group homes with the individuals I worked with. But timing is probably what makes or breaks some of these strategies more than anything else. And that is, do I give them time to dwell and spiral up, or are they already moving and headed out the door before they have time to get mad at me? And that is a huge one, and I learned it through just basic operant conditioning, which I could show you, but in that system, there's a command or a directive you give someone. So I say to someone, take your coat off. I expect a response from them. If they don't give me it, I might say no, and then I go right back to what? The directive. Take your coat off, I will help. Out the door we go. There's not even a moment there, and you just think, oh, they're going to get prompt dependent, what they're going to learn is that you say it once, maybe twice, and they listen. Do you know how many families I have come into my office that say to me, why does my kid listen the 5th time I tell him something? Do you know what I say to them? Just, and sleep like a baby? Because you don't reinforce or you don't follow through till the 5th time. So let's go back to the first time you say it. You may do it by yourself or with help. Yep, we're out the door right now. That's it. If a kid knows, like your kids do at Irving, they know about a calm chair, a safe whatever, you can finish it here or you can finish it in your super green safe chair. You choose or I'll choose for you. And that timing is so quick, they don't even have time. But, guys, that's 22 years of doing this stuff. It's pretty heavy-duty behaviors coming at you the entire time. And so your timing gets better as you do it more, and so many of you have excellent timing. Just don't forget that re-ask, what are we doing? That's part of that timing piece too. Check for knowledge. What's going on right now? And you come back to them, yeah, you're right, let's go. It sets you up in a situation where you can give them reinforcement. Your 2 little guys, what we're talking about, they tell and re-ask, and timing will make or break you with them. They will make or break that situation. You 3. So they absolutely will. Behavior trapping, I don't like the way this kid's walking to the door. I'm going to behaviorally trap it, and I'm going to have him practice it. It's also called overcorrection or positive practice. I'm going to have him do it many times. I'm going to have him go up, and he's our door liner upper kiddo, and he's learning how to do it, and you've tracked it. You've said, this is the behavior I really need to focus on because it would make a huge difference with us going and lining up to get out to recess or whatever. Priming and pre-teaching are showing the pieces ahead of time, and I cannot emphasize this one either. You're showing someone what to do ahead of time, and you're pre-teaching the component skills so they can do it. So a student I worked with autism and Tourette's, student, great kid. I watched him in his high school math class. And what the kids did is they'd bait him. He would curse a tick. He would say a naughty word and then put his hand in the air, and that was his tick. And a lot of those things are uncontrollable. He had some wherewithal to try to control some of that, but the kids in the class with him would literally walk by him and say, "Mother bleeper bleep bleep bleep." I can't say it all, but they'd say that knowing then he would curse that tick, and they'd bait him. They'd put his hand up. So watching math that day, I'm sitting with the special ed teacher, and she's doing the lecture on math, and this kid walks behind him and goes, "Mother bleep 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 bleep," in this kid's ear. And I can hear it because I'm back in the corner. Teacher doesn't even hear it. There's 20 kids in the class. She doesn't hear that this has just happened. So probably because I worked with this kid privately, but he knew to try to hold it in. And so I could see him doing this because I taught him to get rid of things on his fingers. But more importantly, he never, in the next 50 minutes, you guys, of math, he never cursed a tick, did it. He let it go. And so I was so excited, and I said to him, I of course noted it right away, and it didn't say anything then, but I made a big point of it that week when I saw him in session in my office. And the teacher said, "Did you see that? He did not say a word when Jesse walked by him. I'm sure he baited him." I said, "Oh yeah, this is what he said." She's like, "Oh," because she had no idea that's what it was, but she saw him bend down and walk on. You're teaching a class of 20 kids, right? I happened to be there that day. And I said, she looked at me and she's like, "I'm so excited, Shauna." I said, and she's a good friend of mine. "I am too." I said, "But who'd you forget to tell?" And she's like, "God," because she never told the student. I said, "You catch him before his butt is in the chair this next time you see him, and you say, 'Hey, hold on, I just need to talk to you for a minute. I have never seen you do that better. I have never seen you be able to stop yourself and resist, and I saw you using your fingers, and I have never been prouder of you than this.'" See, I get like choked up even saying that. "Than this day, right now." She did that. Not another behavior, you guys, till the end of the school year. One time of bringing that up and just saying to him, "I so appreciate what you did right there. I noticed it." And so that is trapping that behavior. It's positive reinforcement. It's timing. The timing piece is the critical, like, I didn't even tell him, and then he left, and he comes back in, and I'm going to fight this behavior, but I need to let him know. Tell and re-ask, I've already talked about. Pre-teaching, okay. If you want kids to color on something, I think about even preschool here. You want kids to color on something, wiki sticks and glue ahead of time. Give you a nice boundary for where they're supposed to color in. So now they're supposed to, you know what wiki sticks are? Little waxy sticks. You can put them around like your coloring pages, and now the kids have a bumper to bump against. The glue, our good old Elmer's glue. Do a little bumper, let it dry overnight. If you know you're going to pull out a coloring sheet at some point, let it dry overnight, bring it out, and they have a bumper to bump against. If you have to, you can go in and color 2/3 of it already. And then all they do is the middle chunk, and they have the fine motor skill to do that. What's that called? Which strategy? Backward chaining. You do a chunk of the whole, right? The whole is kind of done for them. The only thing I don't love about that is I've picked the colors. They might want Elmo's hat to be blue, and I've picked green, and then they're filling in with green. But it's a really great way. What do we do in kindergarten all the time? Color, cut, paste, turn in. Color, cut, paste, turn in. Color, cut, paste, turn in. What's hard for all of our kids? Color, cut, paste, turn in. Seriously, the turn in part's not, but the rest of it is. And it really is hard. The fine motor skill. The cutting's hard, the coloring's hard, the pasting's hard, and now I'm done. I'm ripping up this assignment. So backward chaining, that would literally be a sheet done they could turn in. And then you let them paste the last 3 pieces, they can turn it in. Then you let them paste 10 of the last 3, they're already colored, turn it in. That sort of thing. And we don't think of that, in my opinion, enough, to really get them. People say to me all the time, "I want them doing what the class is doing." Great, then accommodate for it. Then really look at these things to figure out how you have to pre-teach it, prime it. What piece of that same kid that I just told you about was in English when he was a 4th, 5th grader, and they were talking about Shakespeare that day, which was pretty high for 4th, 5th grade to discuss him. And the teacher knew he was going to be God on me if I didn't, give him a little carrot, give him something. So she said, "You are my teacher helper today. We are talking about William Shakespeare. Every time I scratch my nose like this, I need you to raise your hand and say, 'William Shakespeare is who we're talking about.'" And that young man engaged in that 20-minute talk on it, the poetry, which is so abstract to him. He had no idea, no conceptual idea at that age what that was. I think he got it at 17 or 18, you know, with those things, and some kids never get that. And so he's looking at this going, okay, but I know every time she scratches her nose, I need to say Shakespeare, and that kept him. It kept him with her. It stopped him from doing the tics because you harnessed what his vocal was going to be, right? All these things she thought of in doing that. And I said, that's it, I'm leaving. Here's all the stuff you did right. Here's your classroom observation. Because it was just remarkable that she had set him up, primed him, pre-taught him, done that. Right? You see that? But we have all the one-on-one time to do that with, and then we have to figure out how to do it and how to do it right. So the last couple things here, you guys, that I'll tell you about are, these are, I'm going to skip through all this stuff, because these are your individual, you'll get all these, don't worry, on your emails, but these are all those individual ones. I see how I have each thing laid out here for you, so you can kind of remember them beyond here, and with life beyond here. All right, so the last one is the self-regulation. And this, I don't care if it's adults I'm working with or kids. Look at that little guy. I really, really, really see that this is a miss. Kids don't tell you what they need until they behaviorally act up to show you what they need. And so, as much as we can, getting pictures of them doing a sensory activity, making a choice. Do you want the beanbag right now, or dots and squishes, or this lovely...
Sorry for the interruption. This is deaf persons. Can you please report to your classroom? Deaf persons to your classroom.
Giving you the brushing, any of that kind of stuff. What do you need right now to maintain through Walmart? What do you need right now to maintain through our circle time? Because your body's rolling all over here. Oh, how do you backward chain circle time? Kid who can't sit, don't have good core stability. What do you do? Do the last. No one, Corey, no one gets that. No one gets, it's way better to start someone partway through it and let them end with the group than it is to start them and then do what with them? Remove them. It's so much better. What are you showing when you have them removed? You can't make it, get out, it's derogatory. Where we say, we're gonna start 20 minutes in, oh, we're right in time for the sing-alouds. And you go in and you make it up, I don't care, all these words, for the sing-alouds. Yep, we're here, and we're doing the alphabet pals, we're doing visual phonics, and that's it, A to Z, and we leave. Lunchroom. You've eaten 20% of it, and you just go and throw your tray in the thing and put your silverware away because you have someone who's really overstimulated in the lunchroom. And then you back it up, and you might eat dessert in there. And then you might eat, do you see what I mean? And you can think about that in lots of different applications. But the self-regulatory thing is tell me what you need and how you need it, or show me. If we don't have a verbal learner, show me what you need. Right now, here's your card, here's your thing, here's your sign of you getting input, here's your picture card. I need, and it's a big box. I have this in a preschool I'm consulting in right now. I need blank. We are working on blank. And it's laid right out there with icon representation so the kids know immediately, okay, I need squishes and loves. I need those hug drops you do, Shauna, and I hug a kiddo and then just kind of let them drop. This probably looks bad, but I'm talking little now. Think about preschoolers who need input. It's way better than them bouncing across tables. I went in to help Head Start one day. Do you know Head Start preschool programs have a hands-off policy? Okay, you tell me how you get 30 preschoolers ready to go outside with the hands-off policy. And I walk in, and I kid you not, they had 3 tables put together, 1, 2, 3, and there was 2 kids running across the top of the table. And I looked at the director, and he said, we have a hands-off policy in Head Start. I said, well, at what point do you have lawsuits in Head Start when the kids crack their head open because they're running across? I'll help your feet stay on the floor like that in 2 seconds. And yes, I did a hands-on thing there, and that's what we then had to talk about, but they all got off. Guess what the main structure was that we had to do? It wasn't even, I just had to stop it because there was no way I was going to continue watching that. And, but guess what we did? We moved the runway. We didn't give them a runway. That was part of it. Environmental arrangement can save, sometimes in some situations, all of the behavior is based on the environmental arrangement. So we no longer gave them the gauntlet to run up and down. Does that make sense? And the hands-off policy was specific to behaviors and in a chair and that sort of thing, but running on a table is a behavior. The other thing we did for a while, just to get them out of the habit, because every day they came in, they would, don't ask me why, there were little, like the stairs you have if you have a little dog that needs to get up on your bed, right? Those were right here. And I'm like, move the stairs, A, B if it still doesn't work, and then the kids would just hi-ya up there because they're all into movement and so forth, and we tip the tables sideways and then move them so there weren't 3 in a row. That was it. Done behavior. That was all environmental. Do you see what I mean? And right then, it was about keeping the kids safe. But little preschoolers aren't going to tell you. You're going to see what they need, then you're going to give them options. Do you want hug drops, or do you want march feet? We'll get a banjo out, we'll march. I don't care what we do. Maracas, we're going to march maracas. We're going to do that. And we're going to pound, pound, pound when we march, march, march. And it's appropriate in that context. It's not appropriate when they're walking to go in the ragged classroom, pound, 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 maraca, maraca, maraca. But they can have a sensory break when they need it with us. Another thing I've done a lot, you guys, is think about this in Irving and Highlight, I guess, but think about kids Skyping into the classrooms. And I just talked to Mike about this, but so a kid can't sit still. They can't really focus with all the other stuff going on, but they do great in resource, or they do great in life skills. And so what I've started to do in other schools and other districts, and actually in a couple here, but is we'll have 2 iPads set up, one in the classroom and then one in the resource room, and they're watching that lecture on the iPad, and then they're in resource initially, filling out, getting the quieter space, getting the quieter whatever to do the things, but they're watching all the kids. So it's awesome social modeling. It's awesome for your kids who can't maintain through that whole time. So they'll watch the lecture, they'll do it, work on it, not that it's a big lecture, but they'll work on it, and then guess what they get to end with? Walking down to that classroom and turning in their done work, right? Instead of being the last one to get it done, the most inappropriate one in the classroom, and so forth. And then you back it up from there. What I never imagined in doing this could happen is I've had kids from the reg ed setting say, hey, we want to go with Jesse into resource and work on this right now because we want to see that on the 2 iPads. We want to give it a try. And guess what's happening there? There's not a reg ed student there that's missing any instructional opportunity because they're still seeing it virtually, if you will. So they're then watching it, and these 2 kids now, my kiddo who maybe has some more involved needs, and a reg ed peer are sitting there doing their math together. There's nothing cooler than watching that happen, right? They can do it in that setting, but they can't be in the 27-person setting. And then we back it up, make this group a little bigger, make this resource group 4 or 5 kids doing it. And then 6 or 7, then say, oh, we're ready to go in, or you go in for the last 20 minutes. And after you watch the lecture, then you complete your work in the room. That kind of thing. That's how that's all working. Do you see that? And it's very dynamic. It changes for every kiddo, but it can work very beautifully for some of your resource kiddos. As you're thinking, I see you, Amy, you're like, thinking about kiddos. All right, most difficult piece of the think time strategy, which is, here, I'll just show you what we're talking about here. Giving students special jobs, giving them a way to ask for a break. Recess reporter, your little girl that tells you everything that's gone on and is your tattletale from recess. I've literally asked instructors to make a section of their board, and the recess reporter comes in and she has to tell you who was playing nicely at recess instead of who was playing naughtily that you hear about for the next 25 minutes. So you just make a little chunk and she gets to be your official recess reporter who gets to write the good thing. Now you're cognitively, behaviorally changing her outlook. Instead of her looking at what's wrong on the playground, you're forcing her to now be aware of what's going on right. And she comes in and does it. And she's maybe recess reporter for a good week or so, just to get her out of that habit of that incessant tattling and so forth. Okay? So I made this over the years. It's kind of like the 5-point scale, well, it's similar. But I had so many of these that I wrote that and I have I've got a Star Wars one, I've got a princesses one, I've got, my nieces had a nice little princess one when they were little about when they got mad, what they needed to do to calm back down. On your guys' left-hand side, it's I am mad, my body's mad, and then on the right hand would be a solution. And so that's like just your generic. I have these. I'm more than happy to share them with you. Some kindergarten teachers and Emily in here use these in a 3-points fashion. My Star Wars one, all my boys that are totally hooked on Star Wars right now again, that kind of thing, like Luke Skywalker's here, Darth Vader's at the top, that sort of thing, and they're just like, oh, and I'll say to them, when you come back to Luke, and aren't Darth anymore, okay, and we get it, lined out for them, that sort of thing, but it can be any representation. I have a Dora, Diego, Swiper no swiping, and anyway, all right. And then this is probably my favorite, most collective. This is kind of what I've moved to As kids get older, we're using this in high school a lot right now. Tanya and Sierra are using this in the life skills room. A lot of our great teachers here are using this as a zone of regulation in their anti-bullying campaign. So what I love about this is it's not always terrible. This one usually has elated on it too, this red zone right here. All these sound bad, but elated's on there. And this lady's like this, and it's an extreme emotion. Can you be that way at church? Maybe shouldn't be. That's the thing where every one of us has these emotions. We go through them at different times. We're at a funeral. It's okay to be in the blue zone. It's not okay to be in the blue zone all day long every day. There's an excess that happens there. And so then you challenge the kids in this curriculum. It's $42. In this curriculum, they've got, on the other side of this, they've got a toolbox. So a lot of my families at home are working on the zones, and when dad comes home and he's kind of yellowish red, what does he do to get himself calm? That kind of thing, and the kids are like eating it up because it's not just about the bad kid. It's about all four of us and how we go through these zones and what's a tool for you. Mom, what's a tool for you when you get blue? Oh, I listen to music. That sort of thing. And you can have classroom tools, lots of school. If you go on right now and you just go on Google and say zones of regulation, you'll get 1,000 teaching ideas that go with it of different teachers using it right in their collective rooms, okay? And I know some of ours in here do that. All right, and the last thing that I'm showing you here are some of there is a zones of regulation iPad app too. I don't know if you've seen that. It's $3.99 and you set up the tools you need. But there's some other cool sites on here. Starfall.com you probably already know about. You know that for the online reading. It's free. I think you guys both use that. BehaviorAdvisor.com is not super, I mean, it kind of gives you some forms and stuff, but this PBIS Maryland is a really cool classroom checklist, and you would need to do this with your instructors too, but, oh, maybe it's going to tell me. I think it still comes up though. I got this for some of the teachers that I worked with, and some of the admin I work with really like this too, saying, yep, I've got it all covered, Shauna, and then I go in and I'm like, no, I don't think you have it covered. There's the gauntlet of the tables together that the kids can run across and then jump off of. It's just not a good setup. It's not clearly defined as to what section means what, that sort of thing. So this is a cool checklist, and I don't know even if some of your teachers, I did send, by the way, just so you know, Mariah and Jackie and Mosey and all those guys got this PowerPoint too, just so everyone knew what was going on. I didn't have all your guys' emails, or I would have done it with you, but check this out. So there's a physical setting. Are the walls, floor, and furniture clean and in good repair? Is the furniture adjusted? Now, I don't expect y'all to go, no, okay. But like some of these we can look at and say, no, we're actually not adjusted to the height. One of our students is super tall and he needs this. One of our kids is really tiny and they need a block under their foot area. So take a look at those things. Then there's also, and these would be the share scheduling. Is the schedule posted? What's going on? So like this checklist is awesome in August when I present. So teachers go, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna go down that and check off what is or isn't there. There's a behavioral section, and so the only reason I included this is just so you could see it. Instructional planning and delivery are lessons developed at the students' levels, those kind of things. And I thought some of our teachers, classroom teachers would really like this too. Discipline, and then that's it. There's 4 sections to it. And people always ask me for good checklists. This is off PBIS in Maryland, and it's a good way. You know, when I go in and observe, and here's me, observer, date, school, teacher, and I have the teacher fill one out, and I use this for teachers who really need some help in this area often, but they fill one out and they go, yes, 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 and I go, no, 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 from coming in. Then there's stuff to talk about and look at. Do you know what I mean? And some of that you don't need. It's not applicable in your situations, but some of it is a really good reminder of, oh man, I do need these posted. I need the choices posted for my nonverbal kids of what they want to do sensory-wise if I'm ever going to teach them how to self-regulate. I need them to pick those. I need them to see them and tell me what they need right then. So, and some of them won't do that. Some of them need to be taken to them initially.